If you have a pulse, you have a parasite.
It's definitely true. Any kind of health issue, basically anything from allergies to digestive issues to cancer and everything in between, can actually be traced back to parasitic overgrowth.
Mm.
So if you're experiencing any health issues at all, then we need to look at an overgrowth of parasites. You need to do a cleanse. In fact, ancient cultures, some of the earliest writings known to man, talk about parasite cleansing. And so it's a tradition that we've gotten away from, unfortunately. 2 to 4 times a year during those full moon cycles, you should be doing at least some regular cleansing as maintenance. But most people have really extreme health issues and they need to do some more regular cleansing. But what really allows parasites to thrive in your body, number one, is a dysregulated nervous system.
Welcome back to the Medicine Podcast. My name is Mimi, and I am sitting next to my beautiful blue-eyed partner in life and love and exploring the realms of holistic health with me here.
What's going on, everybody? This is Chase. We are back on the Medicine Podcast with a special guest, a topic that, we've talked about a little bit here and there, but really excited to get into today with none other than the Parasite Mama herself, Angela Stinson. Welcome to the Medicine.
Thank you so much for having me, you guys.
Yeah, I'm really excited for this conversation. We were just saying before we pushed record with you that we heard you on a different podcast, and we were like, oh my God, we knew right away we needed to talk to you because, like Chase said, this is something that we have talked about lightly. We've done a number of parasite cleanses on our own, but this is a topic I think there's a lot of murkiness around, and there's definitely people who are in the camp of, no, this is not a problem at all. You don't have to worry about this. Like, people are just straight up lying to you. Like, this is pseudoscience. And then the other camp where it's like doing coffee enema every single day and might be a little bit overboard. And we got to cleanse.
Or just like always wondering if you're just crawling with parasites,
digging through with bamboo sticks to find the parasites.
Yeah.
And so we really want to, we're excited to hear from you and glean some wisdom and some clarity in this area. So first question, we've heard the saying, I've even said the saying before to friends, family members, if you have a pulse, you have a parasite. Is this true or false, and why?
It's definitely true. So everybody on the planet has parasites, but not everybody has a severe parasitic infection. So we're actually meant to live in harmony with like this perfect balance of parasites in our body. When they get overgrown, they start causing some major, major health issues. So again, there's got to be a perfect balance. So I always tell people, like, don't live in fear. There's a lot of fear-mongering stuff out there, especially on TikTok, but really, parasites are going to get overgrown because of other factors. And that's where you really want to look, because if they're overgrown in your body, then we want to dig deeper and find out why. Because when they're in the perfect balance, they actually boost your immune system. They protect you as they go through the body like a sponge and suck up other toxins like mold, chemicals, heavy metals, stuff like that. So yes, everybody has parasites, absolutely everyone, but not everyone has a severely overgrown parasitic infection.
Got it. That's a great foundation for the conversation that we'll be having today. Before we get into, even more specifics as it pertains to, parasites and how to address, how did you become the Parasite Mama? Give us a little bit of the backstory here.
Yeah. So I was basically on death's doorstep. I was sick my entire life. They never could figure out what was wrong with me. It started in childhood. Things just kind of got worse and worse as the years went on. They gave me every label you can think of. It was like one medicine after another. At one point, I was on 32 regular daily medications. I had ballooned up to over 300 pounds. They had told me at that point, hey, we're pretty sure you have lupus. It's really aggressive. It doesn't look like at this point you're going to live to see your 40th birthday. I was in and out of the hospital. I almost died and had over 15 pulmonary embolisms.
Oh my
And
God.
so for me, I believed I was dying. I believed my doctors. I trusted that they had my best interest at heart. I thought, these meds I have to be on for the rest of my life. This
Mm.
is just what my life looks like. There's nothing I can do. And really, like I said, I had been in and out of the hospital for many years. And at the age of 36, I almost died from those pulmonary embolisms. They stopped counting at 15.
Wow.
And I had to sign paperwork to basically put my parents and one of my best friends in charge because they did not think I was going to make it through the night. And that was really what started it for me. Like, okay, if I'm going to die, can I go out all natural? Is there
Mm.
really a way I can heal myself? And I started researching. And at that time that I had the pulmonary embolisms, this is another backstory, but I was living in black mold and I didn't know it.
Mm.
And so after I got home from the hospital, my ceiling caved in my apartment and there was black mold everywhere. And my landlord was like, just spray it with bleach, we'll patch it over. And I started kind of down this rabbit hole. I didn't know about black mold and its toxic effects, or that when you live in it, it causes parasites to get overgrown in your body.
Wow.
So I had started researching black mold and I came across this article that said, hey, parasites will thrive in your body if you're living in black mold. And I was like, what the frick are parasites? And so
Yeah.
I started down this like major rabbit hole. And I told my parents, I'm like, I'm finding this stuff online and I really want to try something. Cause by that point, my family and all my close friends, they knew I was dying. And they were like, they wanted to see me get well. And of course, everyone was praying for me, and they're like, whatever you want to do, do it. We'll support you. And so I kind of started down like that really aggressive rabbit hole. I was the girl that was like juicing and doing coffee enemas multiple times a day. And I went, extreme on like raw veganism. And I was just really aggressive. I told my doctor, I started seeing things come out of me. And I told my doctor, like, I have parasites. And of course, he did stool testing and it showed nothing. He thought I was cuckoo, but he's like, nah, I'll give you some antiparasitics. And again, I did not know what I was doing. And I was so aggressive. I lost all my hair and had to shave my head. I
Wow.
Wow.
horrible. I had like all these like big, huge, like pus blobs like happening on my body because I was killing off so many toxins so quickly before I was ready. It was trying to come out of my skin. So I had these
Sure.
huge abscesses draining, like it was extreme.
Mm.
So,
Did you,
needless to
did you,
say, oh,
sorry to
go ahead.
interrupt for just a quick
No, go ahead.
second. At this point, were you starting to feel any better, or what did it feel like on the inside?
I was. And so what was crazy, despite the extreme detox I went through, which I would never recommend for anyone, my approach as a practitioner is very gentle. But despite how extreme it was for me and how horrible that whole thing was, I was getting better. And I told my doctor, he was like, you don't have parasites. I don't know what those are coming out of you because I was bringing in what I was passing. And he's like, that's probably an asparagus spine because you ate so many vegetables. And, um, but I told him, I said, I want you to wean me off these meds slowly, safely, effectively. And again, at that point, I was on 32 medications. And he was like,
Wow.
can't, you have to be on these the rest of your life or you're going to die. And I'm like, you already told me I'm dying. So like, what's the point? Wean me off. And so I was like, it was a long detox process for me because I was weaning off things I had been on for many, many, many years. Um, and so between weaning off the meds and trying out all these herbs, which I didn't know then about like looking for things that could interact with meds either, like I didn't know what I was doing. I went in very blindly. I was my own guinea pig. So it was intense, but the weight was coming off. I was starting to feel more energy. Like really within a year's time, I dropped over 100 pounds.
Wow.
And there was a lot to it. Obviously, I was changing my diet and I got out of the mold and all of that. But it started to work for me. I was not a practitioner at that time. I was a broke single mom on disability, raising two kids on like $1,100 a month. So
Wow.
Wow.
I had to do what was cheap. I had to do like what I could afford. What could I do for free? Um, and so for me, obviously, it was an intense process, but I was seeing some results and I was documenting everything on Facebook. I was like, people wanted to know. They're like, wait a minute, you were on death's doorstep. What is happening? You're looking different. And I was like, I don't know what I'm doing, but here's what I'm doing.
Yeah,
And it
yeah.
just kind of started that way. And so people started calling me like Parasite Lady, Parasite Queen. And so I officially started calling myself anti-parasitic mama,
Mm,
because at that point in my journey, I thought we have to kill, kill, kill. Parasites are bad. I really believe they were like of the devil at that point. Like
sure.
they were horrible. And and then obviously later down the road, I changed that because I know there's got to be a balance. I know there's a place for them. They're not all harmful. And so I became Parasite Mama eventually. But that was well after I had felt well enough where I thought, I really want to go to school and specialize this. I want to be a practitioner and help other people so that they don't do it the way I did and harm themselves or scare themselves out of the detox process. So that's how I became Parasite Mama.
In this little cup, I have my favorite way to enjoy mushy love, which is in combination with cold milk. We drink raw cow's milk, and I put it about 8 ounces of milk in with about a scoop and a half of mushy love. That combination, like the cold version of mushy love, tastes like liquid graham crackers. Like, I shit you not. If you don't know yet what mushy love is, it's our mushroom elixir with 500 milligrams of chaga, which is amazing for gut support. They call it the king of mushrooms. And then 500 milligrams as well of tremella mushroom, which is the beauty mushroom. And she is most known for holding 500 times her weight in water. The more hydrated we are, the more plump and dewy and fresh and young our skin looks.
Plump and dewy.
For Mushy Love, go to getmushylove.com and you can use the code medicine for a nice little discount that we only give to our medicine podcast listeners. Wow.
What an amazing story. And you look incredible, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah,
You would
look
never know
vibrant
that
and
that
healthy.
happened to you. Like,
Yeah.
man,
Yeah.
what a freaking journey for you. That is seriously
Yeah.
just like walking through the fire. So what was the
Yeah.
time frame from when you first, I guess, were on death's door, as you say,
Yeah.
to the point where you were like, I think I'm getting better, I'm good, I'm feeling healthier. Like, what was the time frame here?
Yeah. It was the end of 2013 when I almost died from the 15 pulmonary embolisms. And there were a few months where I was just kind of like in a fog, like, oh my God, I can't believe I almost died. And I had started kind of doing the research. And it wasn't until like the end of 2014 that I was like, I'm really going to start doing something about this. There was definitely for me, and I always am super straightforward with my clients. Like, I was addicted to what I was taking. I had a ton of trauma that I had not addressed, and we can touch on that later about how trauma makes parasites get overgrown too. But for me, it wasn't like, hey, I was taking street drugs or alcohol, but I was numbing myself with painkillers for sure. So it was very scary for me to get off of those things, and scary for me because I identified with who I was as the girl with lupus.
Mm.
And that's one thing I always tell people, like, don't identify with your label. I did it and it kept me stuck
Yeah.
Yeah.
like over 15 years.
Yeah, because we
just
continue
like
to believe
this,
that story about ourselves.
yeah.
So
And
why
I'm
would
like,
why would our
there's
body want to
sympathy
shift?
attached to it, oh, you poor thing, you're a single
Right.
mom, you're dying. Like there's a lot attached to that. And so it took almost a year for me to really start doing something about it. But by the end of 2015, after a year of like experimenting and slowly starting to wean off the meds, I had dropped 100 pounds. I was feeling like a different person by then. So from 2014 to end of 2015, it was like completely different person. And then
Wow.
there have been healing isn't linear, right?
Right.
There have been
Yeah.
ups and
Yeah.
downs.
Yeah.
Like I got bit by a tick a few years after and got
Mhm.
infected with Lyme disease. And like, so it's been, up and down. Um, but compared to where I was, I mean, I could not walk without a cane. I had to use a motorized scooter to go grocery shopping. So now I just turned 47 yesterday, day before
Oh,
yesterday. And
wow. Happy
when
birthday.
I look, thank you. When I look now at who I am compared to what I was at 37, totally different person.
Yeah, I
Wow.
So
bet. I
it's
bet you
never
have
too late. It's never too late.
Yeah.
these
Beautiful.
experiences give us so much perspective on
Yeah.
the simple things in life, just like being able to walk without a
Yeah.
cane or without a
Yeah. Yeah.
motorized scooter or whatever, just being able to move your body. We
Yeah.
take it for granted, but then when you lose that, it
Yeah.
just puts everything into perspective where
Definitely.
now there's a layer of gratitude probably every day for you, just like
Yeah. Yeah.
this wild journey that
Definitely.
you've been on.
Yeah, definitely. And like I always tell people too, there are ups and downs. Like things happen in life and you have little setbacks, and sometimes you have to go back to square one. But really overall, like when I look at like, oh my gosh, I can hike through Europe with my husband and like
Yeah.
and have stamina and run a business now, run a very busy practice. And just it's crazy. It's mind-boggling when I look back at what my life used to be. So
Life is crazy beautiful.
it is. It is.
Emphasis on both. But you mentioned a few minutes ago that you were saying to yourself, I want to go to school and I want to learn. What has that schooling or training looked like for you in this realm?
Oh my goodness. Very tough for sure. Putting myself through school as a practitioner, the program I did, it was a 2-year program. It was very intensive. I trained under naturopathic doctors to become a practitioner. And then I also did training through NASM to become certified as a behavior change specialist and certified in sports nutrition. And then obviously I'm a nerd, so I'm always doing other trainings, and I specialize in bioenergetic testing, and I do a lot of trainings around Lyme disease as well, and mold, because I've been affected by those things. So I'm always learning. I always tell my clients, learn loosely, because what you think you know now may change in a few
Yeah.
years. So, um, but as far as really the parasitic portion of it, most of that is not really a huge focus in practitioner school, because even naturopathic doctors often feel that parasitic infection is rare,
Hmm.
or they get it wrong when they're saying, hey, just take these herbs, and their client's not prepared for it, or they're not using a binder, or all these things.
Yeah.
So I see that a lot. So the parasitic aspect of it has been, here's what happened in my own journey. And now, after working with hundreds and hundreds of clients, this is the type of protocol I do. Um, Very gently. Let's, work on such and such things first before we ever go into anything aggressive. So, a lot of training just on my own, in my own journey with other clients, learning the hard way, that kind of
Sure.
stuff.
Hmm.
And
Sure.
side trainings that I didn't get
Yeah.
in school as a practitioner.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. Well, thank you for really paving the way in a lot of cases. Let's get into parasites a little bit. Like,
Yeah.
Parasite 101, how do we get them? What do they look like? I think when I first heard about these, I was like, parasites? What? Like, I remember reading books about like missionaries traveling into Africa and having like
Right.
tapeworms crawl into their mouth
Right.
or something you'd see in Star Trek where they crawl through your ear and
Yeah.
they're legitimate worms or almost like snakes. But what does it practically look like? If it's this
Yeah.
common, surely they're not the size of, something visible to the eye.
So only about 30% of parasites are visible to the naked eye. And that category, those are called helminths. And those are going to be like roundworms, tapeworms, whipworms, pinworms, stuff like that you can actually see if it passes. Even then, you can't always see unless you're like really digging through your bowel movements and looking. A lot of times, the larger parasites will come out broken up into smaller pieces too.
Okay.
So, Again, you can more often see that 30% category with the naked eye, but 70% of parasites are completely microscopic. You cannot see them at all with the naked eye. And parasites are everywhere. That's again another reason I tell people stop living in fear. Like people are afraid to go barefoot or go swimming, or I'm like, enjoy your life. Like you
Yeah.
can't get away from it. You could breathe in an egg from an HVAC system. Like you can get them anywhere. It can be in undercooked food, it can be on salad, it can be on fruits and vegetables. Again, it can be in the water supply, the water you're showering in, bathing in, drinking, swimming, in bodies of water,
From your
hot,
pet too, right?
your pets, yeah, person to person contact, whoever you're closest with, we pass these things back and forth. So there's no way to get around being exposed unless you literally live in a bubble. But that is not good for your nervous system to live in fear. So they're everywhere. So what you really want to work on is how can I make my body inhospitable so they can't get overgrown?
Mm. Yeah. So I would love to get into that. Like, what does
Yeah,
that include? I guess maybe first, like, how do you know if you have an overgrowth or you have
yeah,
an environment that the parasites have become toxic to the body? And if
yeah,
you can't see them with the visible eye, maybe if you're having bowel movements and you're the one person who can see the worm that comes out, great. But
yeah,
if you're not, how do you identify whether or not it's something that needs to be addressed?
yeah. So any kind of health issue, basically anything from allergies to digestive issues to cancer and everything in between can actually be traced back to parasitic overgrowth.
Mm.
So if you're experiencing any health issues at all, then we need to look at an overgrowth of parasites, even if you're not seeing them come out in the toilet, which a lot of people come to me and they're like, I never thought parasites were real and now I'm seeing stuff. What is this?
Hmm.
Um, and so that happens too. But a lot of times people have very few symptoms or they don't see anything at all. And they're like, oh, I just have like some bloating and digestive issues and bad PMS or whatever. Like, um, again, you need to do a cleanse. In fact, ancient culture, some of the earliest writings known to man talk about parasite cleansing. And so it's a tradition that we've gotten away from, unfortunately. 2 to 4 times a year during those full moon cycles, you should be doing at least some regular cleansing as maintenance. But most people have really extreme health issues and they need to do some more regular cleansing. But what really allows parasites to thrive in your body, number one, is a dysregulated nervous system. And I always start there because it gets overlooked. Nobody talks about in this community of parasites, very few people talk about we got to get that nervous system regulated. Because if you are having trauma and you're being triggered all the time, trauma you haven't worked through, or you have stress that you're not managing well, or you have all these really lower vibrational emotions of anger, unforgiveness, I feel stuck, I hate my life, whatever it is, that allows parasites to thrive. And that's one of the biggest pieces of the puzzle to really heal any kind of health situation that's going on. So, nervous system that's dysregulated allows parasites to thrive. If you're living in mold or being exposed to mold, even if you're out of the mold and you've had mold in your body, it can still continue to grow. That can cause parasites to get overgrown. Any kind of toxin, so chemicals, plastics, if you work in an environment where you're exposed to a lot of different chemicals, or your cleaning and beauty supplies are full of chemicals, that allows parasites to get overgrown. So, like heavy metals, vaccinations, tattoos, anything in our water supply, which is really bad. Parasites are in our water supply too. So, um, that will allow them to get overgrown. Wi-Fi radiation
Mm.
also causes them to really, really grow as well. Low stomach acid. If you don't have good, strong stomach acid, and where if you're exposed, they should burn upon contact. If that's not happening, then they can get overgrown. Um, I'm trying to think of what else. Those are
So,
the
so,
big ones.
so
Yeah.
as far as like nervous system, you know,
Yeah.
regulation and or just excess or unregulated stress. I'm like
Yeah.
asking for a friend. Uh, how does that, are they like drinking cortisol and like growing into these mutants inside of our bodies from excess cortisol or something along those lines? Like how does the nervous system um, being dysregulated provide this, opportunity for them to thrive in this
Yeah.
environment?
It really kind of goes back to a vibrational type of thing because everything has its own vibrational frequency and even certain emotions. So the more stressed you are, the more that they're going to get overgrown. And those emotions definitely affect certain body parts. So, like anger, resentment, frustration, unforgiveness, feeling stuck, those are going to affect liver, gallbladder, and weaken those organs. And parasites love anything that's weakened. So if you have organs that have weakening, or let's say you get a traumatic brain injury, concussion, whatever, that weakened area, they'll be attracted to the weakened
Interesting.
areas or injuries in the body. They'll be attracted to those areas as well. So nervous system, those anxiety, stress, that's going to affect adrenals, kidneys, the gut. Um, and so those pathogens get overgrown with those lower vibrational
Got it.
emotions.
And then as far as like, being exposed to or consuming toxic foods and or toxicity in the environment, plastics and heavy metals
Mhm.
and even mold, these are what feed their growth, correct? Like this is what they are
Yeah.
consuming, and as such, as you expose yourself to more of these, toxins in the environment or through the food that you eat, this is essentially like growth hormone for them. They just like blow up.
They do. And it's because they're actually trying to protect you. They're
Right.
trying
Okay.
to
Yeah.
go through the body and suck up all that crap to keep it from getting into your bloodstream
Mm,
or going into your internal organs. So again, we want that perfect balance because we don't want to get rid of them all. We want them to be like, oh yeah, let's suck up some of these toxins. But you know, the longer they're in us, they're releasing ammonia, they're defecating in us, they keep reproducing. Like there's all kinds of side effects to the overgrowth that are horrible, and cause their own health issues. So um, another thing too, like that's going to get them overgrown is obviously poor diet, the typical American diet, antibiotic use, medications as well. A lot of medications deplete your stomach acid or
sure.
allow bad bacteria to get overgrown in the gut. And then thus parasites are going to get more overgrown too, because they're like, oh man, all this bad bacteria is getting overgrown. We have to suck up some of this bad bacteria. So we got to keep reproducing to suck up all the bad stuff.
Yeah.
So it's a vicious cycle for
Totally.
sure.
Totally.
Yeah, I mean, all the things that you listed, from symptoms, what someone might be experiencing in the way of health issues, which is like almost everyone has one of those things, like either
Yeah,
even
yeah,
if it's just gas and bloating or constipation or acne or whatever the thing is.
yeah,
And then, all the things that can amplify or exacerbate, or
yeah,
contribute to the overgrowth of parasites, which, like 5G or Wi-Fi radiation or whatever.
yeah,
It's like
yeah.
just being a modern human. So
Uh-huh. Yeah,
all that to say, like, I think that comes back to the regular cleansing that you mentioned. And maybe if
hmm,
we could um get into that a little bit. Like, okay, so
yeah,
someone has some symptoms. Maybe it's gas and bloating, acne, and like major fatigue or something, a
yeah,
brain fog, whatever it is,
yeah.
debilitating, but not life-threatening, right?
Right, right.
And they know that they haven't been living the greatest lifestyle. So they think like, okay, so I probably have a parasite overgrowth. Let's just like the odds are in my favor that I probably
Right,
do.
right.
Do you recommend people, let's talk about testing. Are tests just null and void? Do they help at all? Are there specific blood markers that we can look at on, say, if we just get, LabCorp blood work done? Is there something that
Yeah.
we can look at that could indicate, or are there other tests And we'll start there and then maybe move to the cleanses.
Yeah, absolutely. So, number one, stool testing is a sad joke.
Okay.
It's less than 10% accurate.
Wow.
And that is because most of the time, parasites are not going to be in the colon. It's really only during the full moon cycles that they're going to come into the intestinal tract to feed, reproduce.
Interesting.
Um, Most of the time, they're hiding in your tissues and your internal organs. So, on top of that, with parasites, they are so stealthy that upon 15 minutes of leaving the body, they secrete an enzyme that will completely dissolve their body and their own DNA. So, when you think about parasite stool testing, most of the time you send in your sample and it's sitting there for a few days before it even gets tested.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very rare to get a positive on a stool sample. So I just tell people don't waste your time. There are other testing methods out there. People will look at blood work. Again, most of the time, these things aren't hiding in the blood, they're hiding in the tissues. GI mapping would be considered a holistic test, but again, not as accurate because most of the time, these things aren't going to be in the GI tract.
Mm.
So the testing I use is bioenergetic testing. And it has been the most spot on I have ever found. And I've done all the tests you can think of.
Wow.
And my clients usually come to me after they've done all the testing. But the bioenergetic testing is again going to look at frequencies. Everything has its own vibrational frequency, including parasites, bacteria, viruses, mold, heavy metals, chemicals when they're in the body. And so that's going to show us what is stressing my body out the most and what does my body want to do about it. That's part of why it's my favorite testing, because it's the most spot on and it shows me a very bio-individual approach. I do not believe in blanket protocols. There are so many blanket protocols out there. Everyone try this, everyone do this. That's not how it works.
Right.
What works for one person doesn't always work for another. So you have to really look at bio-individuality when you're doing any kind of cleansing. And then there are things you can look at when you get blood work done. So signs of like high parasitic overgrowth in the body are going to be things like, hey, I have issues with chronic anemia. My iron levels are low. My B12 is low. Copper might be low. Low MCV, low MCH, low MPV. Stuff like that can really be a marker for having parasitic overgrowth. But when it comes to cleansing, I don't recommend like what you explained, like this person, what their symptoms may be. I would never just say, well, your symptoms point to parasitic overgrowth, so go buy a cleanse and start doing it.
Mm.
First, I want to look at drainage and foundational protocols.
Okay.
And so, can you easily work up a sweat? Can you have at least 2 easy to pass, well formed bowel movements per day? I'm not talking about, oh, I have diarrhea, so I'm good. I'm going multiple times a day. It's got to be well formed, easy to pass. So we're going to start with that stuff first. And we're going to start working on regulating your nervous system every single day. We're going to practice like balancing your circadian rhythms, making sure that you're getting good minerals, that your diet is looking good. Let's make sure we're drinking clean water, you're showering and bathing in clean water. So I kind of put together like a little protocol. Let's work on increasing your stomach acid and let's get all those preventative things in place so your body is prepped and ready before we dive into strong herbals. Otherwise, what happens is a lot of people will just buy a cleanse and they start taking it, and then all of a sudden they end up in the hospital with elevated liver enzymes, or they just feel crappy and they're
Sure.
like, my skin's breaking out, I'm having rash and hives, or I feel like I'm going to lose my mind. There's a lot of anger and anxiety that can come out while you're cleansing for people that have severe parasitic overgrowth. So we want to make sure that we're really working on those foundational things, because before my clients ever even attempt to use herbs to cleanse, they start to pass things as we get those foundational things in
Right,
place.
right, right.
Because the more safe and relaxed the body feels, the easier it's going to be to just let go of toxins. And that's one of the misconceptions in the detox world is like, I'm going to do a heavy metal cleanse and get rid of all the heavy metals. Well, the body's only going to let go of it if it's ready to let go of it. You can't just,
Mm-hmm.
you can take a bunch of stuff, but it may do nothing or may make you feel worse because it's not ready. So, nervous system work again, which I preach over and over, because the more safe and relaxed we feel, the easier the body is going to be able to just let go of anything that no longer serves it.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool. Very cool. Can we talk about food? And I would imagine
Yeah.
that's in this sort of pre-cleanse space is talking about diet. I think you mentioned
Mhm.
that. What are some
Yeah.
go-tos as it pertains to the food that you should keep in your refrigerator or how you should shop when it comes to ensuring that this environment is completely conducive to a proper level of parasites?
Yeah. So I can say I've tried every diet out there. I don't subscribe to any certain diets. I do not promote veganism at all anymore. I'm a huge advocate of higher protein, good quality animal foods, raw dairy, pasture raised eggs. Do not eat a carb alone. I don't demonize carbs like a lot of people do that in the health community. I'm just a fan of if you're going to eat a carb, then pair it with a protein and a fat.
Sure.
Um, so eat real food is what I tell my clients. And I do have like meal snack idea guidelines I give them because most of my clients, especially my female clients, are not getting enough protein. They're not getting enough protein at breakfast, which is stressing out their hormones, really stressing out their adrenals, putting their body into fight or flight mode. And again, if your body's in fight or flight mode because you're under eating or not getting enough protein or your blood sugar's like going like this because you're like eating carbs alone or whatever, body's not going to feel safe and relaxed to detox properly. So I'm just a huge fan of eat real food and bump up the good quality proteins for sure. So stay away from the processed stuff. If you look at the label and you can't read the ingredients, you can't
Yeah.
pronounce from it, then you want to obviously stay away from it.
Yeah, yeah, we are so aligned there, and in all those ways, these are all things that we talk about all the time on the podcast and share with,
Yeah.
with our loved ones and followers and all of that. I do want to bounce back to
Yeah, of course.
cleanses, and then because I think the food also ties into the
Yeah.
cleansing,
Yeah.
because I've heard some things about certain anti-parasitic foods
Yeah.
or anti-parasitic drinks or things like that.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if there's any merit to that, really.
Yeah.
And I'll just share a quick anecdote, I guess. So the first parasite cleanse that I did after opening up pathways and making sure all of the things that you mentioned, I was working with a practitioner, and she had used reishi mushroom
Yeah.
to cleanse parasites. And we're big mushroom people. If you can't tell, we love medicinal mushrooms, and we have a
Yeah.
few different medicinal mushroom products. So for me, I was like, oh hell yeah, let's give this a go.
Yeah.
And I already had everything I needed because I drink this reishi coffee every day and have some spore capsules. And so I did this cleanse where I just drank a few reishi coffees every day, and I had a few spore capsules every day. And I didn't really have my hopes up. I didn't really know what to expect, honestly. I had never done a parasite cleanse, but
Yeah.
people I trusted had done them and said that they worked and all of that. And I knew how safe medicinal mushrooms in general and reishi mushroom in general was.
Yeah.
So I went all for it, went all out, and I was shocked at what came out of me just
Yeah.
using reishi.
I know.
And I got the little bamboo sticks and I was combing through. I wanted to know
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
what is coming out of me. I want to know if this is working or not.
Right.
And Before this, I can honestly say I wasn't combing through my poop with bamboo sticks, so I don't know what the before and after was here. But I can say that once I started cleansing, I did feel a little like malaise. It kind of felt like I had the beginning
Yeah.
of a flu, but it wasn't
Yeah.
horrible. You know, I could
Right.
still work every day, but it just kind of felt like meh, like the first day of
Yeah.
your period or something, where you're
Yeah.
just kind of like
Yeah.
low energy and just kind of like, but it wasn't horrible. So totally doable there. And I was like taking pictures of what was coming out of me. I mean, I was
Yeah.
seeing like liver flukes and long worms. Like,
Yeah.
you take the bamboo stick and you go like this, and you're like, what the fuck?
What is
What is
it?
this alien shit coming out
I
of me,
know, right?
literally? And and so, anyways, this lasted about a week to 10 days that I was seeing stuff kind of exiting my body. And then I
Yeah.
kind of backed off because I was feeling fine, feeling better. And I was told that you don't want to go too long. You don't want to be too intense about this.
Right.
But in my experience, it worked. And then other people who have also tried this reishi cleanse say it also works. Have you
Yeah.
heard anything about this? I'm just curious your
Mhm.
thoughts.
Yeah.
And you're not going to hurt my feelings if you're like, that was so stupid. What were you thinking?
No,
Like, you
not
won't
at
hurt my
all.
feelings.
Not at all. I'm a huge fan of reishi mushroom as well. I'm wondering if we're talking about the same product, but
Probably.
huge success with that. Huge success. And really, there are tons of anti-parasitic foods you can add in. And like I always tell people, it's normal to feel a little meh, like you talked about
Hmm.
with your cleanse, but you should not feel horrible.
Okay.
Normal to feel just a little low energy, a little extra cranky, a little extra tired, maybe like you're going to come down with something. But what I see in a lot of these extreme parasite groups, and I did it too, um, power through it. That's good. People are like breaking out in rashes or they're having horrible, like some people have suicidal thoughts or they
Sure.
get
Yeah.
really depressed or have severe anxiety or they're having tachycardia. And I've even seen naturopathic doctors tell people, power through it. That's a good sign. It's not. You need to
Hmm.
back off. You are killing off way more than your body can handle, than your liver and kidneys can filter,
Mm.
and it gets into the danger zone. And again, I've seen clients end up with extreme symptoms to where they end up hospitalized or their liver enzymes are elevated, or like me, where, the huge boils, pus boils were happening and my hair was falling out in handfuls. So, normal to feel a little yuck, but not normal to be so aggressive that you feel absolutely horrible. So, yes, reishi mushroom is an amazing thing to use for killing parasites. And then there are other anti-parasitic foods: garlic, papaya seeds, raw honey, um, ginger, watermelon
Mm.
seeds, they're sesame seeds, cabbage, onions, cucumber seeds, tons of stuff. And I do have, I believe, on my Parasite page and on my website too, I have all this information for people. And again, if you're a newbie to cleansing, don't start eating like 20 things off this
Yeah.
Okay.
anti-parasitic list.
Right.
Start with one thing at a time for a few days and see how you tolerate it. Because you can even go too far on like, I'm going to just start eating a ton of
Oh
anti-parasitic
yeah,
food.
that would be me. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
like, let me just take
Go
the,
big or go home. That
shotgun
was me.
approach.
That was me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
So what is actually happening when, we kills the parasites?
yeah.
When a seed comes down the pipe and it goes into the parasite, what is actually happening to them that kills the
Yeah.
parasite from the reishi mushroom or whatever else that's anti-parasitic?
Yeah. So certain foods, certain fruits, certain vegetables, certain seeds, certain things like reishi, they just have properties in that plant that are
Hmm.
anti-parasitic. They either kill the pathogen, and anything that's like antiviral, antibacterial, anti-candida is also anti-parasitic.
Okay.
It usually covers all bases. Some things just paralyze the parasites. So, like pumpkin seeds, it's not killing them, but it paralyzes them. So, great for the full moon cycle because when they're paralyzed, they can't latch back onto the intestinal wall lining and scurry away and hide.
Got it.
So it's another great thing to use. So, just again, everything we need is at our fingertips from
Of
nature to
course.
really give us what we need to get things back in balance.
Okay.
I've heard about the one of the reasons why reishi is so effective is that it disrupts the biofilm around the
Yes,
parasites. Can you speak to that
absolutely.
a little bit? Like what is
Yeah.
biofilm and
Yeah,
what's going on there?
absolutely. Yeah. And I talk about that too. I have in my Facebook group, it's a free Facebook group where people can come in and just ask questions and get all the information they need for cleansing because biofilm disruption is super important too, because parasites and other pathogens create this biofilm and mucoid plaque as a way to hide in it so that they can stay in your body longer. They can actually hide from your immune system in there. So, again, when doctors tell you you have an autoimmune disease, your body's attacking itself, it's not attacking itself. Your body is smart. It's trying to attack some sort of pathogen.
Sure. Yeah.
Um, but they can hide from your immune system in there. And so you really want to disrupt that biofilm. And there are definitely things that can do that. A lot of the foods that I mentioned that are anti-parasitic also disrupt biofilm, but reishi is another great thing to disrupt biofilm. Systemic enzymes, or any enzymes in general, serrapeptase, stuff like that. Those also disrupt biofilm and help you break down parasites easily as well. And it causes a ton of inflammation in the body, that biofilm alone. And it can look really like kind of like gelatinous when it
Hmm.
comes out if it's biofilm.
Yeah, it looks
Mucoid,
like a loogie.
yeah, it does. It
Mhm.
looks
Yeah,
like a
like a
loogie,
brown
yeah.
loogie.
Real slimy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mucoid plaque is a little bit firmer. But both are super important to address when you're parasite cleansing so that they have nowhere to hide.
Hmm.
Got it. Got it. Okay, let's walk through what a cleanse should look like. And so we've
Yeah.
got the full moon. I always sleep terribly on the full moon, and
Yeah.
there may be a parasite relationship to that. But so the full moon's coming up. Why around the full moon? And
Yeah.
then what does it look like? I would assume this protocol starts like in the evening, maybe before bed or something. So maybe walk us through what a
Yeah.
full moon cleanse looks like.
Yeah. So during the full moon cycle, the full moon cycle starts 5 days before the full moon and goes until 5 days after. So there are about 11 days out of each month that parasites are most active, where they're coming out of hiding out of all your organs and tissues, and they're coming into the intestinal tract. That's the best time to try to kill them because they're the most vulnerable.
Okay.
So during a full moon, your serotonin increases, which is what parasites use to move through your body. Your melatonin decreases during a full moon. So very common for people to have more sleep issues during the full moon because your melatonin totally drops. So for a severe parasitic infection, let's say like you've already done the work, first of all, I'm working on my nervous system, I'm detoxing my life, I can poop easy, I can sweat
Right.
easy.
Right. You've checked
As
the
long as all
boxes.
that's
Yeah.
going on and you are ready to start cleansing, then you want to cleanse every full moon cycle for 3 to 12 months in a row.
Okay.
For some people, it may be a little longer, depending on the severity of the infection. But the goal really is I'm going to cleanse every full moon until I notice my health issues disappearing. And when that happens, then I can cut back to 2 to 4 times a year as maintenance for cleansing during those full moon cycles. Now, it is an 11-day period that you can cleanse, but not everyone can tolerate cleansing for a full 11 days. So some people need to start with just like 2 to 4 days, a little closer to the full moon during that cycle time. And I do have full moon cleansing calendars on all my sites, my website, all of that. So people know exactly when to be cleansing. And then parasites adapt and become immune to things very quickly. So you don't want to use the same product over and over and over. It's
Cool.
really
Cool.
important
Okay.
to switch it up so they can adapt. So
Mm,
I'm a huge fan of like singular capsules or singular tinctures. Number one, if you have a reaction, you know exactly what you're reacting to versus I bought something that has 10 different herbs in it.
Right.
So again, there are tons of great things on the market. It should not cost a fortune. You don't need to buy a $500 protocol to
Mm.
effectively parasite cleanse. There are so many great organic, inexpensive tinctures you can purchase, and rotate those out regularly. You can always circle back and use them again. But for example, if you're going to use garlic capsules, don't use them for the full 6 to 12 months of cleansing every single time. Circle that, cycle those out and use something else like olive leaf, oregano, grapefruit seed extract, stuff like that. But I always tell people, no matter what protocol you buy, no matter what tincture or capsule you use, start at 1/4 of the dosage that
Oh,
is
okay.
recommended. Listen to your body. How do you feel on 1/4 of a dosage? If you do okay, bump it up a little. Don't go straight for full dosage because everyone's bio-individual. Not everyone can even ever handle a full dosage on something. If you start to cleanse and you're increasing your dosage and you're starting to feel horrible, you got to back off on those herbs and focus more on the drainage. Get the lymph moving, sweat, castor oil packs, enemas, whatever you can, liver, kidney support type of things, herbals to really get things freely moving. Because when you start to feel really cruddy on a cleanse, it's usually a sign that you're killing off more than your liver and kidneys can even circulate out fast enough. So, and you have to use a good binder for your
Okay.
cleanse. It doesn't contain charcoal.
Oh,
I'm
okay. Why is that?
charcoal. So charcoal is great for an acute situation like food poisoning, but when you use it regularly for like more than 3 days in a row, it actually starts to cause some pretty severe nutritional deficiencies.
Because it's
So
binding to those
it's
nutrients.
binding onto the nutrients. So
Okay.
I'm not a fan of using any binders with charcoal. I much prefer things like a good quality zeolite or a good quality chlorella or
Okay.
good quality pectin, something like that that's not going to constipate and or bind onto nutrients.
Okay.
Okay.
And would you recommend taking that outside of an eating window of any kind? Like,
Yeah, I
okay.
usually I don't know if you guys know Dr. Jess, but I really love her
Hmm.
protocol is kill bind sweat.
Okay.
And I really encourage my clients to do that too. And it doesn't really matter when you take your antiparasitics. You could do it morning, you could do it afternoon, you could do it evening.
Okay.
I prefer to take them around food because parasites are going to want to be eating what you're eating. And so it's a great time to like, hey, I'm going to have a little bit of raw honey. Because again, in a lot of these extremist groups, they'll say, you got to starve them out. You can't have any carbs. That's the worst advice. You want to give them a reason to come out of hiding.
Mm.
So complex carbs are their favorite. And so it's good to like don't cut out all carbs. You want to lessen your carb intake during a parasite cleanse, but don't cut them all out because again, we want to give them a reason to come out of hiding. And then you hit the herbs around mealtime. And then you want to do something, an hour or two later to kind of move that lymphatic system and take your binder. And that could be massage, vibration plate, any kind of exercise,
Like a
hot bath,
mini
sauna,
trampoline.
mini trampoline.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything that's going to kind of move that crud out of the lymph, that's a perfect time to take a binder, even if you're not parasite cleansing.
Okay.
Because those activities stir that crud out of the lymph and the binder goes and grabs some of it and gets it out of your body forever.
That's really
So
good.
even if you're not in a a in-depth
And
parasite cleanse,
Mhm.
taking a binder every now and then
Yeah.
alongside some lymph work is a good idea
Yeah.
in your opinion?
Very good. Very good
Okay.
idea.
Yeah.
Especially for those that have like high mold exposure, high heavy metal exposure, because it'll help get that crud out of you forever.
Yeah.
Okay. So you gave us a few ideas for the binders. You said pectin, you said chlorella. Are there you listed off a few for the herbs for killing
Yeah.
parasites. Obviously, we talked about reishi, but now I'm thinking like I drink my reishi king coffee every day, and I'm thinking like
It is
maybe
the
they're
same
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
yeah, I know. I had a
I love
feeling.
king
It's so
coffee.
yummy.
And it's the best. I just love it.
I do too.
I don't drink it just because it's anti-parasitic, but now I'm
Yeah.
thinking like maybe there could be some immunity. I'm not having any like major symptoms or anything, but if I could I don't want to get in the headspace of like, oh, I don't ever need to do a parasite cleanse because I'm drinking my
Right.
Reishi King coffee every single
Right.
day.
Right.
That could be helping, but throwing in another type of herb, maybe once a quarter. For me,
Mm-hmm.
I'm generally healthy. I don't have any major symptoms.
Yeah.
Um, what are if you could list like maybe three to
Yeah.
five anti-parasitic herbs that people
Yeah.
could, and maybe the brand that you recommend.
So as far as brands go, I mean, I have a full script account. I have things I'm affiliated with, so people can always reach out, but I don't want people to feel like they have to reach out to work with me. Just look for something organic
Mm,
when it comes to herbals, because herbs do get heavily sprayed. So there are tons of great organic things on the market that you can get. But some of the top parasite killers that are great to have on hand so that you can be rotating them out are garlic, ginger, oregano, olive leaf, black seed is another great
Mm,
one. Grapefruit seed extract is another really good one as well. And then we've got black walnut, wormwood, clove.
wow.
Those are some of the heavy hitters.
Awesome.
okay.
Everybody listening, Angela's being, incredibly helpful in giving us free reasons to, parasite detox, but definitely hit her up because if you are affiliated with brands that you love and
Yeah.
represent, let's definitely support
Yeah,
Yeah.
Angela's
And I
absolutely.
business.
always do a discount. Like I said, I was a broke single mom on disability when I had to figure this out. So I always try to carry over into my practice, like, what can I recommend that's high quality,
Yeah.
that's helped me, that's helped clients, but that doesn't break the piggy bank. I'm not going to be one of those girls that's going to recommend a $300 or $500 protocol.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
Never going
really
to be.
refreshing. Really
awesome. Yeah,
refreshing to
you're
hear.
the real
Yeah.
deal.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Something that I've done in the past, and it's probably more of a personal question, but mimosa seed
Yeah.
extract.
Hmm.
And I think I heard you talking about it, but I've definitely found it on the parasite communities on the interweb, and it's
Yeah.
this ropeworm idea. And so
Yeah.
to give the listeners a little context, there are these what look like legitimate worms, like borderline
Yeah.
snakes that come out in your
Yeah.
poop. When some people say they're worms, but there's a big debate online, essentially in the parasite community, as to whether or
Yeah.
not these are legitimate worms. And we have some mimosa seed on hand, and I've used them through various, cleanses, and then go to do a coffee enema. And of course, you're picking through it as one does when they're trying to identify parasites. And you see this clump of just what looks like a hornet's nest of just various worms. And I'm freaking out before I know what this is. I'm like telling Mimi, like, what in the hell is coming out? Like, I can't believe this is in my body. And I find this sort of debate on
Yeah.
the interwebs around what is this? People are calling this ropeworm. Is it a parasite? Is it not? Is it just this mucus or biofilm basically accumulated in the intestines that looks almost rope like? And I'd love to get your perspective on that. I have
Yeah.
my own bro science perspective in that
Yeah.
I've somewhat used myself as a test case with mimosa seed and
Yeah.
found that it really only shows up post having consumed the mimosa seed capsules.
Yeah.
But what is your opinion? Because that is definitely one of the more pushed supplements out
Yeah.
there when it
It
comes to
is.
parasite. And I can't
Yeah.
say that I felt particularly great going through that supplement for
Yeah.
my parasite cleanse.
Yeah. So it always comes back to bio individuality first, which is why I hate it when people are like, everyone should take this, because some people feel horrible on Mimosa pudica. They can't tolerate it at all. But there are I hesitate because I know on one side of the camp they are like, this is a real worm, it has a sucker, it's getting into me, like it's alive. And as someone who got treated like they were crazy when I talked to my doctor about parasites, and I've had clients actually be referred to the psych unit when they try to go to their doctor about
Wow.
parasites, very common. It's so common to be treated like you're a crazy person. So I don't want to ever like tell people I don't believe you, but I can tell you this. I have had clients pass what looks like ropeworm even when they don't take mimosa pudica.
Mm,
Mm,
And in my experience, it is a combination of dead parasites and biofilm and mucoid plaque all just kind of all
Yeah.
together. Now, that being said, most of the time when people pass that, they have been taking Mimosa pudica seed, or Para 1, as it's called with Cellcore products. And if you put it in water, and I've done this experiment myself, if you put it in water, you'll see it looks like that.
Yeah. If you open the
You can
capsule up
kind of
into
roll it
a,
up.
yeah.
Yeah. And you can even roll it up, and it looks like what people are passing. So I always, in my parasite group, we've had this debate, and I tell people, please experiment yourself, put it in water, see what you can form out of it. Again, it's a cool product because it is sticky, and because it's sticky, it does grab on to mucoid plaque, biofilm, parasites that they can't latch onto the intestinal wall, specifically during those full moon cycles. But a lot of people get really excited and think they're passing these things that it may just be the Mimosa pudica.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I
I
have
don't want
definitely,
to tell people I don't believe them,
yeah.
if that's
Yeah.
what they really truly believe. But at the same time,
Totally.
yeah,
Totally.
Yeah. Yeah.
you have to take it into account for sure if
Yeah,
you're taking
totally.
it.
When I was doing my reishi cleanse and I was pulling stuff out, it definitely wasn't that.
Yeah.
It was the stuff that I was pulling out was not, it was definitely wormy and
Yeah.
not the globby mucus looking stuff. It was
Yeah.
like a legit, looked like a long
Yeah.
earthworm. And
Yeah, that was a roundworm then. Anything kind of long and skinny like a pencil is
yes.
typically, yeah.
Yeah, which is just
Yeah.
wild. The first time you see it, you're like, how
I know.
has this
I
been
know. I
inside of
remember
me?
that. I remember that.
And I didn't
Mine
know,
was
or I
over a
didn't.
foot long, the first one I
Wow.
passed, and I was like, how long has this been in
What?
me?
Right. Right. What a
It is alarming. It's
Yeah.
alarming.
Yeah.
And I understand why people don't want to like go digging and see. But
Yes.
like
Yeah.
I'm the person that I want to know if it's working. And I'm
Yeah.
not going to
Yeah.
continue to spend money on this or continue to take these
Yeah.
capsules, continue to do the cleanse. Plus, if you have any sort of platform, like I was sharing my pictures on Instagram, like I have a whole
Right.
parasite highlight. I was like committed to the cause to
Yes.
help
Yeah.
other people. And yeah, but I thank you for shedding light on the Mimosa Pudica
Yeah.
debate
Yeah.
out there.
Yeah. Definitely.
I would love to talk about enemas
Yeah.
and how much of a role they play in a proper cleanse, as well as just a lifestyle, a healthy lifestyle overall. They've been a game changer for us, just
Yeah.
from just an overall digestive health perspective.
Yeah.
And I never would have thought I would have said that, but
Yeah.
like there's like before coffee enemas
Yes.
and after, and like
Right.
honestly it's been such a critical component to just the well-being that we have in our life now.
It's in the top three like wellness hacks that I would
Yeah.
not want to give up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As crazy as
I
that
agree.
sounds, because you tell
No.
people who have never done one, they're like, you put what? Where? Like,
What? Yeah.
what is this for? You're like,
I
just
know.
trust me, your life will be changed.
But
Yeah.
I'd love to know, like, what role do they play in this parasite cleansing process, and how
Yeah.
often should they be
Yeah.
used?
So my favorite time to use them is during a full moon cycle, because it's when parasites are coming into that whole area, and you're going to be more apt to flush them out. Now, they are fabulous for any time, even not during a full moon cycle, but that's the really great time to use them so that you're flushing more stuff out. I mean, they're amazing for stimulating bile flow to the liver. They increase your glutathione levels by like over 300 times. So, and that's your master antioxidant. I am a huge fan. It's one of the very first things I started in my own healing journey, and it was a game changer for me. And it's something I always come back to as well. Like if I haven't done one in a while, sometimes I'm like, if I've been traveling,
Right.
I'm like, I really need to do an enema and
Yeah.
I feel better.
Yeah.
So, I think some people can overdo it, where, they're doing it multiple times a day for many, many, many months on end.
Mm.
I think it's very bio individual. Some people feel better, especially when you're very, very ill. I don't know if you've ever heard of the Gerson protocol,
Mhm.
but they do it on cancer patients. They're doing it multiple times a day. Something like that in the extreme is really great at first if you are very, very ill. And then you kind of want to listen to your body and taper off. But a lot of things that people forget about when they're doing the enema is replenishing their electrolytes afterward.
Mm,
Um, and so I always remind people when I'm working with a client that's never done one, we start with a filtered warm water enema first. And we do that a couple times so that they can tolerate that. Or we do like a filtered organic chamomile tea enema. And if they can tolerate a couple turns of that, then we'll go into the coffee. But I always tell people you've got to replenish your electrolytes afterward because it really does deplete your minerals. And it's really helpful to use a binder either right before or
okay.
right after because you're moving a lot of lymph in that area as well and stirring things up. So the binder will go in and help grab that stuff and get it out too. But they are a game changer. They really are. I'm a huge, huge fan.
As far as liver and kidney support through the
Yeah.
cleanse, is that a separate action that should take place? We've used Tudka in the past, for
Yeah.
instance. And then
Yeah.
is that a separate sort of activity outside of the parasite cleansing herbs?
Yes, it is. So you want to do things like Tudka, Knack, milk thistle, dandelion, licorice root, castor oil packs are really great. And then anything to help induce a sweat while you're cleansing, because the more you're sweating it out, you're taking off that pressure from your liver and kidneys. Since your skin is your biggest organ, if you can just really work on inducing a sweat, that'll help your cleanse be a little more gentle, so to speak, too, without like, hey, things are coming out of my skin now because my liver and kidneys are overburdened.
Got it. Okay. What should, we've talked about binders and parasite cleansing herbs. We've talked about, liver and kidney support, coffee enemas. What should be cycled and what, because there would be some, and I would include myself in this camp
Yeah.
initially, that I would say, I'm just going to do this every day. I'm just going to do this every day.
Yeah.
This will be my supplement stack. I'll include it with all my other supplements, and this will be good. I'll never get a parasite ever again. But I would imagine there's some level of, seasonality and a cyclical
Yeah.
approach to this. What does that look
Yeah.
like?
So liver and kidney support are great for, regular use, but anything that kills should not be used every day. And I see this a lot, and I did this too, where I was just like, kill, kill, kill all the time. And the reason I advise taking those breaks and only cleansing during that full moon cycle is that when you over cleanse, you create another huge laundry list of issues because now you are stripping away too much good gut bacteria. Because it's just like with an antibiotic, it strips away everything. Those herbs are nature's antibiotics.
Hmm.
So we don't want to take them every single day. So what you really want to do is use those strong herbs during the full moon cycles. And then when it's not a full moon cycle, replenish with good gut bacteria with fermented foods.
Got it.
Okay. Yeah, that's great. I've heard that pregnant women,
Hmm.
women who are breastfeeding
Hmm.
probably shouldn't do an intense cleanse.
Yeah.
Is that true? And is there anyone else that maybe shouldn't be doing a cleanse?
Yeah. So, pregnancy and breastfeeding is definitely not a time where you want to be doing anything aggressive for herbals and stuff while parasite cleansing. Because when you're killing off those toxins, it can be passed to the baby. There are homeopathic things that can be done, though, that are very gentle and very safe for pregnancy and breastfeeding. We didn't really touch on this a lot, but I talk about it a lot in my on my platforms because I love homeopathics. Even most of my clients, I start them at that, even the
Hmm.
adults, because I don't want to go strong into the aggressive herbs first. I want to see can they handle the gentle stuff first. Very gentle, but still very effective. And obviously, there are things you can do, like pregnancy and breastfeeding should be a time that you're really nurturing your body with good quality animal foods. There are anti-parasitic foods you can eat during those times, but again, it should be all very gentle. Everything should be food-based. Besides pregnancy and breastfeeding, if you are in severe adrenal fatigue and your nervous system is crazy dysregulated, you're not ready to cleanse.
Mm.
You've got to work on the foundational stuff first, grounding, getting the sunlight, stimulating your vagus nerve and regulating your nervous system every day, really calming things down. If you cannot easily sweat and you are chronically constipated, if you're not having, I say 1 to 3 easy to pass bowel movements per day, but preferably it'd be 2 or 3, then you don't want to go straight into aggressive cleansing easily or right away. You need to start working on inducing a sweat. Have some ginger before you take a hot bath so it warms your body, or have some ginger before you exercise or before you do a sauna. Get those drainage pathways open first, for sure.
Really
Okay.
good.
Okay.
Really good.
Do you think this would be a good tool for people looking to conceive? Do you think this would help with fertility? Is there any information that you can give there as far as
Yeah,
I think I know the answer, but would love to hear your
you
thoughts.
do, I think. So ancient cultures, this is what they did. They would have the couple cleanse for 6 to 12 months in a row and eat all nutrient dense foods. They were getting the organ meats, they were getting all the good stuff for 6 to 12 months and using herbs to cleanse so that when they conceived, their child had the optimal genes.
Mm.
So it's absolutely something I would say do if you're thinking about having a family. And again, a lot of pregnant and breastfeeding women come to me and they're like, oh no, now, why can't I do it now? It should be something you do before that,
Okay.
for sure. And if you don't know about it, like, don't kick yourself. There's plenty you can do down the road.
Mhm.
But yeah, it should absolutely be something that couples do for 6 to 12 months, every full moon cycle, along with really nurturing their body with all of those nutrient dense foods to really prepare so that you're not passing this stuff down to your kids, because it does pass. I can see it over and over when I do testing. If I test a mom and then I test the baby, they often have the same parasites causing stress, the same heavy metals, the same chemicals.
I mean, it makes sense.
Wow.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're sharing DNA and blood and
Yes.
saliva and
Yeah.
microbiome and all the things. So yeah, it makes
Yeah.
sense.
Well, and this again could be bro science, but one thing that I have noticed after a cleanse, and especially the first time I did it, I had adrenal exhaustion in my 20s, super low testosterone and everything
Yeah.
else that was related to my vitality. And, fortunately, through a host of different lifestyle changes, mostly were able to recover to a certain degree. But one of the
Yeah.
things I definitely noticed after having done the cleanse for the first time was a uptick in libido. And what
Yeah.
I would imagine to be something related to either the regulatory nature of my stress state or an increase in testosterone or some combination of both. And again, that's anecdotal and probably a little bro sciencey, but even still to this day, when I go through a cleanse, a lot of times it's around a period where I'm like, I know my body's vital signs at this
Yes.
point. And,
Yeah.
for a guy, especially if you're not having like nocturnal erections and things of that
Yep.
nature, you wake up and you're like, yo, I'm 33 and a half and I should be like
Yeah.
ready to go here.
Right.
And that's usually
Yeah.
a good indication for me, oddly enough,
Yeah.
in that protocol of like, hey, I need a vitality, a couple weeks where I'm really
Yeah.
investing in my own vitality. The coffee enema / parasite cleanse around the full moon tends to be one of those activities that is supportive
Yeah.
of like my male hormones. I'm not
Yeah.
sure if that's something that you've noticed in the past, but definitely from
Yeah.
my anecdotal experience, it has been.
Yeah. Obviously, the majority of my clients are females or
Sure.
moms but, that are coming to me, but I have plenty of male clients. And that is definitely something we see where there is a major surge in libido, and just overall health and testosterone levels going up because, um, these toxins, the toxins, the parasites hold on to what they're releasing in your system, all of that definitely affects hormones.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It makes so much sense too. Like that's your jing, that's your life force energy.
Right.
And
Yeah.
if you're
Yeah.
overgrown or, if that infection is literally leaching that life force energy,
Sure.
of course you're gonna
Yeah.
feel that surge. And
Yeah.
women feel
Definitely.
that too. We
Yes.
it
Yeah.
doesn't you don't have to be a man to feel that surge in libido. And it makes me wonder, when women in their, maybe middle-aged women think that their sex drive is going down or whatever,
Yeah.
or men too, but like
Hmm.
I think it's more common for women to be like, I don't really care about it anymore.
Right.
That's probably not healthy,
Not. It's not.
right. And so it makes me think like how many of us are just walking around, maybe not us here, but how many just regular people are just walking around, having this overgrowth and they don't even know it, and
Yeah.
they aren't connecting the dots, not listening to, podcasts with Parasite
Yeah.
Mama to know that hey, it could just be like maybe you need to do, work with someone to do
Yeah.
a cleanse.
Well, and I even think like our mentor and friend Paul Chek often talks about there's working out and then there's working in, and this working out is this
Yes.
yang exercise and outward
Yeah.
stress. It's exercise, it's the to-do list, it's managing our families and our calendars, and all of those are, not necessarily bad things in balance, but they are yang, they are outward. And
Yeah.
even the process of something like consuming whole foods and a balanced diet can be a yin exercise, but if you have an interference like a parasite, you're not getting the proper yin to your yang.
Hmm.
And I would
Yeah.
imagine even just that homeostasis, that balance that we all really have to find some level of regulation on is like going to be interrupted if you have something like an overgrowth in parasites, because you quite literally are having your yin practice somewhat
Yeah.
stolen from you, or fractionalized, if you will.
Yeah, it is, because when they're in the perfect balance in your body, it's fine. But when they get overgrown, they're literally sucking your nutrients. They're sucking the life right out of you.
Yeah.
And um, as far as women's libido, I see that too with my female clients, where a lot of times, like, the husband's not quite on board with like the whole parasite cleansing thing, but then the wife starts to get sex drive again, and he's
Right.
like, whoa,
Yeah.
whatever you're doing, I want to talk to Parasite Mama now. Like, I'm
We
on
need to
board.
pay that
Let's make
woman
some
more.
changes in
Yeah.
our family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you're
Uh,
not feeling happy, hungry, or horny, then you need to go after some
Yeah.
parasites for
Well
sure.
said.
yeah, I love that.
Well
We need
said.
that on a t-shirt.
Yeah.
Right?
Hashtag Parasite Mama.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. Well, we went over so much today. I know that this is, there's just so much information out there, and I really
Yeah.
appreciate you shedding some light here and giving us some really great tips. Is there anything that we missed that you're like, oh, we can't, sign off without talking about
Hmm.
this?
I don't think so. I mean, I always try to touch on like the stronger antiparasitics like ivermectin, fenben, because those are huge out there right now.
Right.
Everyone's
Hmm.
promoting them. And same thing, I'm not against them, but those should be like step 7, 8, 9, or 10
Yep.
on your journey. First, open your drainage pathways, regulate your nervous system. Can you handle homeopathics? And then can you handle herbals? And if you're seasoned, then try those things. It should never be a first step. Again, I did it as a first step, and we all know what happened there. So, and I've had lots of clients do that. So that would probably be the only thing I would really touch on, is just because there's so much out there right now, the age of information,
Yeah.
everybody's promoting, just take ivermectin, or just take, a prescription antiparasitic, and um, bioindividuality gets forgotten along the way. So,
Yeah.
Hmm.
Definitely.
Yeah. Well, last question for me. This is kind of a selfish one. I'm just thinking
yeah.
like, yeah, I haven't done a cleanse in a while. Next full moon, I think I want to, do this. I guess this is two questions. You've obviously gone through many different cleanses, and it sounds like you're living your best life and you have this robust health, which is so great. If you're generally healthy, um, what does your personal cadence look like with cleansing? Are you doing every full moon, or is it like once a
I'm not
quarter?
anymore. I'm not anymore. So I was for a very long time. I did about a year and a half of every single full moon cycle. Now I do about 4 times a year.
Okay.
I will say that last year I had some lot of unexpected deaths with friends and family,
Mm,
and I had all these like a resurgence of symptoms
mm,
that I hadn't had in years. And I know that was nervous system, like, this is, and so when you're stressed like that, you're grieving, you're going through that stuff. Again, parasites and other pathogens get overgrown. So I actually did more last year just because I knew I have to bump something up because things have gotten just, there was a lot of traveling and lack of sleep and, things that all contribute. I bumped up the coffee enemas too. So listen to your body. But if you're really not having a lot of major stress in your life or you're not having a lot of major health issues, then 2 to 4 times a year as maintenance should be a good way to go.
okay.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, that's really helpful. And I'm gonna get on it. So if I were to take that approach, do it quarterly just for general health.
Yeah.
Um, you said to alternate what you're using. Could
Yeah.
you alternate like 2 to 4 herbs like every other time, or maybe you're doing 3 different herbs and you just alternate, rotate? Is that a wide enough variety in your opinion?
Yeah, some people just do singular and they're like, I'm only going to take garlic this time, garlic capsules, or I'm only going to take olive leaf. But you can mix and match, you know, um, for example, black walnut, wormwood, and clove. Those three work really well together. You see them
Mm.
in a lot of blends together.
Yeah, yeah.
So you could do that, those three together for a cleanse. And then next time you could be like, hey, I'm going to do olive leaf and garlic. And again, it's not that you can't ever use those again. You can always circle back uh,
Hmm.
and use them again, just not same thing over and over and over. But yeah, you can
Okay.
definitely double up or triple up on the herbs, but just again, start at a very low dosage and see how your body tolerates it before increasing it.
Hmm.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Awesome.
You are a badass.
Yeah.
Oh gosh,
This is super
thank you.
fun.
Thanks
Where
so
can
much.
people find out more about you? Get, into any offerings that you might have or work
Yeah.
with you.
So the very best place to go is my website, which is parasitemama.com, because there you'll find my Instagram link, my Facebook link, my private Facebook group link for my parasite group. You'll see all my courses. I have free courses and I have like a Parasites 101 master course that you pay for. I have tons of options. So yeah, the website parasitemama.com is a great place to kind of see everything.
Awesome.
Awesome. Amazing. Thank you so much
You are
for
so welcome.
being our guest and shedding so much light. And I am just so grateful that we, have someone that we can recommend people to if they
Yeah.
have, I get parasite questions all the time.
Yeah.
And, I can answer from my own experience, but I don't lead people. I don't like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
do this, do that. I'm like, this is what I did
Yeah.
and it seemed to be okay, but you really should work with someone because we've
Yeah.
we've all here heard horror stories of drainage pathways not being opened and these parasites can travel to the other areas of the body and all these things.
Yeah.
So, I'm
Especially if you're on meds, like you want to make sure that you're working with someone that can really check for those
Mm.
contraindications. Like,
mhm.
is what you're taking going to interact with certain herbs? Do you need to avoid certain things for now too?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Yep.
That's a really good point. Yeah. But I'm just so grateful that we can just point people straight to you and like just go here. This is her niche and she's going to be way more helpful than we are.
Definitely.
So, thank you so much.
you're so
Um
welcome, you guys. It was a pleasure.
yes, we love this conversation. It was so fun too. I just
It
love
was.
learning about this
Yeah.
weird
Yeah.
shit.
Totally. Yeah.
Thank you guys for hanging out with us. Check the show notes for all the links, and we will talk to you next time. Go spread some light. Okay, bye.
Thank you so much for listening.
If you enjoyed that, check out right over here for some more fun clips.
Oh, and you're going to want to subscribe.
Bye.